unwind, and carry on. You two are very close. You see, life has a breath and a beat. Through you, it breathes in and out. However, we frequently overlook this and begin to sprint against the wind rather than with it. We push, we pull, we worry, and we strain. We think we can get there just by working hard. In some way, that pushing and grinding will make us at peace. However, serenity is something you remember rather than something you arrive at. And even though your legs tremble and your mind screams that it's all too much, you are already on the verge of success. The problem is that most people give up when they're exhausted. Unaware that the sky constantly darkens before the sun rises, most people give up as it becomes dark. The majority of people see the pressure as an indication to quit. What if, however, the pressure is only the last stretch? What if the storm is a doorway rather than a curse? Fighting the water is not your destiny. You're supposed to float alongside it. You're not at odds with the current. It serves as your guide. Settle into it. Give up the panic, the dread, and the urge to be in charge of everything. Doing less has a certain wisdom. Stillness, not sloth or indifference. Have faith. The type that declares, "I've done what I could." Let it happen now, because you destroy the fruit if you attempt to remove it from the tree before it is ripe. Even though you might not be able to see it, the seed you sowed is already sprouting underground if you wait and let it fall into your hands effortlessly. It doesn't necessarily stop happening just because you can't see it. It's not always dead just because it's silent. Underground, life is in motion. In the silence, there is progress. Above all, your persistence is a success. You don't realize how near you are, but tightening your fists and making the route open won't get you there. Taking one step at a time, breathing deeply, grinning when you can, and having faith that the universe, God, life, or whatever you name it, isn't working against you, can help you get there. It's dancing beside you. It has always been. Do you recall how the caterpillar exits the cocoon in surrender, rather than in a panic? Stress is not the source of the metamorphosis. It is achieved by being motionless and gently discarding things that are no longer useful. So why do you feel such fear? Why do you think that your suffering is a sign of failure, when it can actually be a sign of progress? When resistance could be the tension right before delivery, why do you treat it as rejection? All of this has a still point, a hub. There's a part of you that realizes you've come too far to give up. You don't shout from that part of yourself. It murmurs. Breathe. Be. It says, take a gentle stroll. Continue. You're almost there. You wouldn't realize how close you were if you stopped right now. And that would be the most profound form of grief. Not the anguish of failing, but the sorrow of never realizing what was only a breath away. So, unwind. Your jaw should be relaxed. Let go of your shoulders. Release your hold. You're not falling behind. You're not lost. You're not running late. You're developing just how you were supposed to. Continue. You two are very close. The way we approach progress is deeply misinterpreted. From an early age, we were taught that hard work equals success, that we can only change the world to our advantage by working hard, exerting pressure, exerting control, and manipulating others. Despite being widely held, this concept stems from fear. It is caused by the fear that we will lose it if we don't push ourselves, that everything will collapse if we unwind. We become uptight as a result. We work harder. With clenched fists and stiff minds, we pursue results. We attempt to beat nature at her own speed and outpace time. However, by doing this, we start to act against the very energy that keeps us alive. Life is like a river that flows through everything, a current that flows either with or without our consent. Its direction comes from intuition, rhythm, and divine wisdom, rather than charts or man-made blueprints. You struggle when you oppose this current. You flow when you give yourself over to it. You discover that whatever you are frantically pursuing is already coming your way in that flow. We don't start to experience the tranquility we've been longing for until we stop swimming upstream. This is not giving up. It's letting go. It's letting go of something. It's letting go. The feeling of being different is nearly as terrible as the pressure and nearly as eerie as a vice. We have been conditioned by the world to think that being still is a sign of failure and that resting is a sign of laziness. However, the trees grow stronger in silence and are not sluggish. The stars shine at just the right moment, but they do not compete. The moon always shows up, but it never rushes. If we are prepared to accept it, there is a lesson here. Life was never supposed to be a combat zone. It was supposed to be a dance. And nobody uses the music to force themselves to dance. They follow its movements. Life breaks when you try to manipulate it like a machine. However, it flows when you approach it as a song. Action and force are not the same thing. A line is an action. It emerges organically from awareness. Fear is the source of force. It stems from fear and the conviction that nothing will happen unless you take action. However, the most lovely things in life, healing, love, clarity, and purpose, cannot be coerced. They have to be permitted. You have to invite them. Giving up power does not imply becoming apathetic or meek. It implies that you gain wisdom. You take action when it's necessary and relax when it's not. You acquire the skill of timing. You start to feel when things are in alignment and when they are not. Knocking on doors that weren't meant for you is no longer a waste of energy. Rather, you pay attention. You pay attention to the subtle clues, the gentle proddings, the inner murmur that leads you peacefully rather than fearfully. And even the slightest steps gain force when you pay attention to that whisper. When we finally unwind, we frequently make the biggest discoveries. When we let go of the burden and just breathe, we can stop trying to fix everything, ourselves and other people. We discover clarity in that breath. We find guidance in that silence. You are not being asked to exert more effort in life. It's urging you to have more faith in the idea that your mission will come to pass without your intervention, just as the sun rises without your assistance. That does not imply that you take no action. It indicates that you act calmly and appropriately at the appropriate moment. Your energy becomes sacred as a result. You begin to harness it purposefully instead of dispersing it in 1,000 directions out of fear. A lot of people are running themselves into the ground in an attempt to manifest something that would come to them with ease if they would simply submit, not give up, but give in to the wisdom of the moment, to the timing that belongs to your soul rather than the clock on your wall. You're not running late. You're not lost. Something more profound than your reasoning is directing you. Even though you may feel as though you are straying, you're being guided. Furthermore, that advice doesn't yell. It murmurs. Breathe, it says. Calm down. Continue. Don't push it though. Keep your calm from being stolen by your urgency. Keep your clarity from being stolen by your impatience. The breakthroughs frequently occur when you give up trying so hard for a cause. Because as you let go, your spirit becomes available once more. The cacophony of effort no longer envelops you. Life and you are no longer at odds. Life pours in when you become flexible, responsive, and open. Inspiration comes back. Healing begins. Doors open. Why? Because you've made space. You've moved out of the way. You've stopped blocking the very thing you were crying out for. Most people don't realize this. When you force something, you're actually resisting it, because force comes from the belief that it's not already yours. But when you trust, when you act with calm confidence, you align with the truth that everything you seek is seeking you too. Letting go of force also means letting go of outcomes. It entails realizing that you can believe something will happen without knowing how it will. It entails choosing to relax in the knowledge that life is not random, and letting go of the impulse to manage every little detail. The whole picture is seen by someone bigger, that no one is ignoring your way. It's getting ready. Delays, detours, and locked doors are not always failures. They are grace. They serve as defense. They are the universe's hands, rearranging the parts so that everything will be correct when it arrives. What is already yours doesn't need to be pursued. To unwind into the mystery of becoming, all you have to do is walk with faith, keep your heart open, and have a gentle spirit. Indeed, the world will tell you that this is stupid and that you need to work hard, compete, and win. But the world's fear is the only reason for that. The loudest voice has always been fear. However, the truth is known to your soul. And this is the reality. Your strength is not force. It is presence. You're not good at control. It is trust. You don't have to hold on so firmly. Suffering is not a prerequisite for success. You can unwind. You are free to let go. Instead of having fire in your veins, you can continue to move forward with serenity in your chest. And in some way, that will push you farther than terror could. We frequently misinterpret the true meaning of silence. We start to panic the instant things go quiet. Our plans are postponed, or our progress appears to stall. Silence is a sign of failure. We think there must be a problem if we are not traveling at maximum speed. Stillness, however, is ubiquitous and sacrosanct in the natural world. In the winter, trees appear dead and lie still for months. However, they are still alive. Far below the surface, in areas that are invisible to the human eye. They're getting ready. The roots are becoming more profound. The ground is changing. The work is being done on the inside. Then, at precisely the right moment, life emerges from the branches once more. The tree trusted the season, not because it made a greater effort. The absence of progress does not equate to stillness. It's the getting ready for it. However, we are resistant to the slower seasons because we have become addicted to action and loudness. We believe that life ought to be an upward spiral. However, genuine growth is not linear. It spirals. It makes a circle. It flows. And ease. You are not being denied by the delay you perceive. The pause is divine. The cosmos is murmuring, wait. You're not yet ready to blossom. However, you will be. And a lot is going on in that waiting, in that sacred place of seeming emptiness. But only if you are prepared to give up passing judgment on it. Stillness is not a sign of shame. It has power. However, it takes guts to stop hurrying, to stop pushing, and to stay with yourself long enough to listen to what life is attempting to teach you. The majority of individuals steer clear of silence because it makes them face the issues they have hidden behind distractions. They feel vulnerable and exposed as a result. However, you re-establish your connection to the important things in that openness and exposure. When no one is around, you remember who you are. You come to the conclusion that you are not what you do, who you are, or what you demonstrate, if you are prepared enough for that realization to be healing on its own. You are sufficient already. You take your time and finish. It's liberating. Your soul recalibrates during the calm seasons. Your identity has been reconstructed. You have a well-developed character. You can listen more intently while you're still. Must pay attention to the path life is guiding you, rather than rushing forward. The majority of your life's most significant turning points won't be dramatic. They will arrive in the form of a soft knowledge in your soul that indicates it's time, a subtle shift in awareness, or a whisper. However, you will miss it if you are constantly on the go and yelling over that whisper with plans, control, and noise. Stasis is not the same as stillness. It is capitulation masquerading as strength. It is the decision to remain still until movement takes on significance. It is the decision to hold off on speaking until your words are meaningful. Indeed, the metamorphosis is taking place within, even though it may appear as though nothing is happening on the surface. The caterpillar does not push and strive to become a butterfly. It lies inside the cocoon. It dissolves. In order to become what it is supposed to be, it lets go of what it was. This is not a sign of weakness. This preparation is sacred. It's possible that you are going through a time when everything seems calm. Doors aren't opening yet, and prayers don't seem to be answered. But what if there is no penalty for this silence? What if it's defense? What if you're being purposefully concealed so you can develop peacefully? What if instead of ignoring you, the world is allowing you to climb without any pressure? We exalt the spotlight while forgetting that light is not conducive to root growth. In the dark, they grow. Additionally, the strength of the tree during storms is determined by its roots. The first breeze will knock you down if you try to bloom before the roots are deep. However, you will rise when the moment is right, and with unwavering strength if you remain calm and patient amid the silence. When you don't see the results, there's a peculiar kind of wisdom in having faith in the process. Faith is necessary. The calm, robust kind, not the boisterous, ostentatious kind. The kind that refuses to leave when all others tell you to. The kind that states, "I may not understand this moment, but I believe it's part of something bigger." That conviction serves as your compass. Your power derives from that surrender. You begin to accept the time of your becoming and cease attempting to regulate the speed of your trip. The beauty of silence is that it teaches you patience, not a defeated, passive type of patience. The patient is admirable, one that remains upright even in the absence of applause, one that keeps believing even when no one is around, one that doesn't have to prove anything right away. You learn to welcome the space between the seed and the harvest, and to sit with the unknown while you are in quiet. And the miracle is actually taking shape there, despite the fact that it may seem empty. A seed would never sprout if you dug it up every day to see how it was doing. It requires time. It needs silence. It needs darkness. You are not any different. Your breakthroughs, your goals, and your healing are all seeds. Panic is not necessary for them. They don't require coercion. They must be patient. They require faith. They require you to have faith that what's happening within you is as significant to what you're hoping to see outside of yourself. Perhaps, just possibly, this silence is the most crucial aspect of the trip. Perhaps it is laying the groundwork for all of your prayers. Maybe it's not about racing toward the finish line, but becoming the kind of person who can carry the reward when it comes. That kind of transformation cannot be rushed. It must be felt. It must be endured. It must be lived. And only those who honor the stillness will be ready for what comes next. There is an illusion that haunts most people quietly and constantly. The illusion that they are behind, that somehow somewhere along the way they missed something, that they should have arrived already, that others are ahead, moving faster, achieving more, glowing brighter. And in that illusion, we panic, we race, we measure our worth against timelines that were never designed for our souls. We look at others' milestones and feel ashamed of our pauses. But what if there is no penalty for this silence? What if it's defense? What if you're being purposefully concealed so you can develop peacefully? What if instead of ignoring you, the world is allowing you to climb without any pressure? We exalt the spotlight, while forgetting that light is not conducive to root growth. In the dark, they grow. Additionally, the strength of the tree during storms is determined by its roots. The first breeze will knock you down if you try to bloom before the roots are deep. However, you will rise when the moment is right, and with unwavering strength if you remain calm and patient amid the silence. When you don't see the results, there's a peculiar kind of wisdom in having faith in the process. Faith is necessary. The calm, robust kind, not the boisterous, ostentatious kind. The kind that refuses to leave when all others tell you to. The kind that states, I may not understand this moment, but I believe it's part of something bigger. That conviction serves as your compass. Your power derives from that surrender. You begin to accept the time of your becoming and cease attempting to regulate the speed of your trip. The beauty of silence is that it teaches you patience, not a defeated, passive type of patience. The patient is admirable, one that remains upright even in the absence of applause, one that keeps believing even when no one is around, one that doesn't have to prove anything right away. You learn to welcome the space between the seed and the harvest, and to sit with the unknown while you are in quiet. And the miracle is actually taking shape there, despite the fact that it may seem empty. A seed would never sprout if you dug it up every day to see how it was doing. It requires time. It needs silence. It needs darkness. You are not any different. Your breakthroughs, your goals, and your healing are all seeds. Panic is not necessary for them. They don't require coercion. They must be patient. They require faith. They require you to have faith that what's happening within you is as significant to what you're hoping to see outside of yourself. Perhaps, just possibly, this silence is the most crucial aspect of the trip. Perhaps it is laying the groundwork for all of your prayers. Perhaps becoming the kind of person who can bear the award when it arrives is more important than racing to the finish line. It is impossible to hurry that kind of change. It has to be experienced. It has to be put up with. It has to be experienced. And only those who respect the silence will be prepared for what follows. Most people are silently and continuously plagued by an illusion. The delusion that others are ahead, moving more quickly, accomplishing more, and shining brighter. That they are behind. That they somehow missed something along the path, and that they should have arrived sooner. And we get scared in that delusion. We compete. Timelines that were never intended for our souls are the benchmarks by which we judge our value. We feel guilty about our stops when we observe other people's accomplishments. What if, however, you are not even behind? What if you don't have a late life? It's simply in sync with an unseen rhythm. We have been conditioned to believe in deadlines, fixed steps, and linear progress on ladders. We believe that everything must occur in accordance with an outside timetable. Be there by then, and acquire this by that age. And we call ourselves failures if we're not. We lose trust because we are carrying a clock that was never adjusted to our inner time, not because we have done anything wrong. In actuality, there isn't a universal timeline. Your path is the only one. Furthermore, pressure does not cause that route to change. It moves with intention. You don't rate trees based on whether they blossom in April or May. You acknowledge that every season has its own. However, we often forget that we are also subject to the wisdom of nature. We compare, we push, and we hurry. We lose sight of the beauty of our own blossoming when we do this. You're not running late. You're not failing. You are evolving. It takes time to become. Becoming takes a detour. Silence, isolation, and occasionally even grief are necessary for becoming. However, none of it is squandered. Nothing about it is pointless. Everything is a part of the orchestration. A complicated heavenly process that you may trust without having any control over. Where someone else is not where you should be. Where your soul is most prepared is where you should be. Furthermore, movement is not always a sign of readiness. It appears to be healing at times. It appears to be waiting at times. Sometimes it seems like you just need to remain motionless long enough to learn something that will be necessary for your future chapter. Furthermore, life will slow you down, regardless of whether you've learnt it or not. Not as a punishment, but as a safeguard. Therefore, when it seems like things are taking longer than they should, consider who made the decision on what should be done. Trying to live up to someone else's concept of progress causes us a lot of anxiety. But respecting your own brings you peace. From understanding that divine timing is more than just a good idea. It is a fact. Certain things take time because you're not prepared. Some things are not ready for you. Thus, they take time. And love, not rejection, is the reason for the delay in both situations. You cease attempting to rush your life into blossoming once you realize this. You give up attempting to make something grow by digging at the roots. You start to have faith that it won't pass you by if it's meant for you. And if you don't get it, it wasn't intended for the person you're still growing into. If your heart is not ready to receive the blessing, there is no benefit to being early. A lot of individuals are more interested in the result than in the preparation. They do not want stability, but they do want visibility. However, the procedure is important. You are shaped by the process. Your strength is developed, your character is put to the test, and your vision becomes clearer during the process. You learn who you are, as well as what you want, during the process. You might get there, but you won't stay if you don't do that. Speed is a global obsession. Instant satisfaction, faster internet, and faster results. However, the soul is not as fast as machinery. It travels at meaning speed. Furthermore, meaning is not microwavable. It takes time for meaning to develop. You also do. All of your experiences, delays, and rejections have sculpted you, not to punish you, but to prepare you. This is the version of you that will be needed for something in the future. The version that has learned to breathe, not the hurried, desperate, exhausted one. The one who has learned to be there. The person who listens for inner truth instead of looking to timetables for approval. You're not falling behind. You're making progress. Furthermore, advancement doesn't always shout. It murmurs at times. It reads, "You experienced happiness once more today, even if only briefly. You've forgiven yourself today for carrying a burden for too long. You began to embrace today instead of comparing." That's advancement. That's actual movement. And while it is frequently imperceptible to the outside world, your spirit can see it clearly. You start to walk away from calm when you let go of the impulse to catch up. You begin to walk gracefully instead of sprinting toward the finish line. You take note of the trip. You cherish the times. You begin to appreciate where you are instead of condemning yourself for not being where you believed you should be. The celebration itself serves as fuel. It keeps you going. It serves as a reminder that life is more than just checking boxes. The goal is to become whole. Furthermore, wholeness cannot be hurried. It has to be permitted. The quietest seasons are frequently when the most significant changes take place. Before it is ever external, the most significant growth is frequently internal. Therefore, take a deeper look if it seems like nothing is happening. There is something. You are neither who you were, nor who you will be in the future. The holy in-between, the sacred middle, is where you are. And it's a good place to be. Allow the others to hurry. Allow them to run and exhaust themselves in an attempt to reach their destination quickly. You take a breath, pay attention, Keep your heart calm and your head up as you continue to walk. There is still time for you. Your time is being set aside for you in a special, lovely, and meaningful way. When it's ready, let it come. When it comes, be prepared. Above all, never let the cacophony of the outside world to persuade you that your leisurely pace is not divine. Most of us try to avoid pain. It is raw, awkward, and profoundly human. We handle it as a system error, something that shouldn't exist, something to numb, steer clear of, or outrun. But what if suffering isn't harmful? What if the same thing we frequently want to mute is also the voice we most need to pay attention to? What if suffering is a portal, a doorway into a deeper knowledge, into a required metamorphosis, into a version of ourselves that we cannot become without first passing through the fire? Pain has a sacred quality. It eliminates our delusions. We are humbled by it. It compels us to see the areas in which we have been deceiving ourselves. It's simple to pretend when you're happy. We often settle for comfort. However, pain awakens us. It forces us to confront the things we have disregarded. Furthermore, it doesn't request authorization to enter. Though it rarely departs without leaving something behind, it shows up like an unexpected visitor. Knowledge, lucidity, or the razor-sharp edge of reality that we have rejected. Most people think that suffering is a form of punishment. They interpret it as an indication that life is against them, or that they have done something wrong. However, suffering does not always indicate failure. It is frequently proof of an advancement. Consider the underground cracking seed. Consider the muscles that undergo minor tears in order to develop. Consider how the heart can be purified by grief. These are all painful. They are all essential. You're not always broken when you're in pain. It could indicate that you're developing in a way you never would have thought possible. There are times in life when everything breaks down. Plans fall through. Dreams disappear. Relationships break down. And health deteriorates. And we often wonder why at those times. We wonder what we did to merit such suffering. What this agony is attempting to teach me, though, might be a better question. What is it sculpting from me? For what purpose is it creating room? Because suffering has a purpose. It has a voice, despite its difficulty. It is intelligent. It comes with a purpose, even if it isn't immediately apparent. Pain can be the best teaching if we are prepared to give up fighting it. It demonstrates our values. It shows us where boundaries are necessary. It reveals what we've put up with for far too long. It frequently encourages us to make decisions we otherwise wouldn't have taken, and serves as a reminder that we are sentient, sensitive, and responsive beings. Sometimes, the pain of letting go is much less than the pain of clinging to something that is no longer suitable for us, even though the end of something we held dear may ache. The hand that pushes us out of the prison we didn't realize we were in can be pain. Many people are stuck because they are afraid of suffering. They steer clear of commitment, love, honesty, and risks, all due to the worry that it could cause pain. Indeed, it could. There will be painful moments in life. However, it will be painful in any case. Both growth and stagnation will be painful. Both accepting the truth and continuing to live a falsehood will cause pain. How to allow grief to mold us without hardening us is the question, not how to avoid it. How to learn from it without losing. Because it takes us from our former selves to our current selves. Pain serves as a portal. It compels us to let go of the little but stable version of ourselves that was created for survival rather than thriving. The illusions are revealed when one is in agony. Distractions become less appealing. It becomes evident what is important. The essence of who we are starts to show. Pain can also purify us if we allow it. Only what is genuine remains after burning away the ego, pride, denial, and fear. The commonality of grief also has an odd beauty. Everyone has it, but we tend to keep it to ourselves. We act as though nothing is wrong. We don masks. We pretend to be unaffected. Beneath it all, though, we are all carrying something. A memory, a scar, a heartache, a regret. And something softens when we realize that we are not alone in our sorrow. We become more compassionate, more patient, more kind, not just with others, but with ourselves. My faith, my faith, my faith. The challenge is that pain often feels like the end. When we're in it, we forget that there's something on the other side. We believe it will last forever. But pain is a visitor, not a permanent resident. It stays only as long as it needs to teach us something. And once we've learned, once we've shifted, once we've surrendered to the process, it begins to ease. It serves as a reminder of both the profundity of the human spirit and the frailty of life. From there, we reconstruct ourselves into something more intelligent, profound, resilient, and alert than we were before. Therefore, if you are currently experiencing discomfort, do not rush to get away from it. Avoid numbing it. Don't write it off. Take a seat with it. Pay attention. Find out why it is here. Allow it to show you what needs to be healed, what needs to be released, and what needs to change. Allow it to shatter you. Instead of destroying you, we want to make room for more life, love, and purpose within you. You don't have to be scared of the pain. There is a purifying in its fire. Therefore, you must be present. There is a path that leads directly into the next chapter of your destiny, and there is direction in its discomfort. Almost everyone is engaged in a silent war. The persistent sense that they're slipping behind in a race they never consented to run, that their progress is too slow, or that they're somehow not where they should be. You should be further along by now. The mind, conditioned by years of comparison, deadlines, and social expectations, murmurs. Observe them. Take a look at their actions. Observe how far ahead they are. And here you are, still waiting, still trying, still stuck. We start to believe that voice because it gets so loud, and we lose our tranquility when we believe it. We start following someone else's pace, story, and destination instead of paying attention to the deeper rhythm of our own journey. However, time doesn't function as we've been taught. There is no ideal timetable for growth. Evolution is not time-bound. Progress is not a checklist, and the soul is not a machine. We weren't made to be compared to other people. We were made to gently, purposefully, and distinctively unfold like the seasons. Some people take longer to blossom than others. However, that is entirely related to divine alignment and has nothing to do with worth. No two lives proceed at the same rate, just as no two flowers bloom simultaneously. And that distinction has a hallowed quality. You start to recognize the beauty of where you are when you stop gauging your success by the standards of the outside world. You start to realize that being behind is really a narrative, an agonizing delusion brought about by timelines that were never intended to define you. In actuality, you are not behind. Your soul came here to live, and you are exactly on schedule for that journey. There is a reason for every detour, pause, and delay. It all contributes to your development. We don't waste the waiting seasons. In an attempt to catch up with a non-existent version of themselves, people race through life. They compare milestones, chase deadlines, and lose sight of the fact that no two people's lives are same. It is a work of art in and of itself, a slow-moving masterpiece. Furthermore, some of the most significant strokes need patience. It is impossible to hasten some of the most important growth. In the places where no one applauds, it takes place silently in the dark. Rebuilding your faith, overcoming heartbreak, learning to accept yourself, and letting go of grudges. These are the true accomplishments. but they don't come with trophies. Everything else is built upon them. You're not running late. You are picking up the necessary knowledge at just the right moment. Furthermore, a lot of the delays you dislike are actually gifts, safeguards, or pauses that help you gain clarity, power, or prevent unanticipated harm. Life sees the whole picture. It can see things you can't. And sometimes, the greatest loving thing life can do for you is to not receive what you want precisely when you want it. Because getting there isn't the only goal. When you do, it's about being prepared. A different version of you is capable of receiving the benefits you're requesting. However, you may not yet be that version. Perhaps you're still evolving into them. That is not a failure either. That's how it works. Transformation cannot be accelerated. Growth is unavoidable. You must experience it firsthand. You must go through it on foot. Additionally, that walk can be slow at times. It hurts sometimes. It's never useless, even though it can be confusing at times. No matter how tiny or imperceptible, every step you take counts. Faster is better. More is success. And steady productivity is the only indication of advancement the world has taught you. However, the soul is aware of this. Depth is more important to the soul than quickness. It prioritizes alignment over success. It prioritizes significance over looks. You already know that the most important things in life cannot be hurried if you are living from your spirit and paying attention to that inner voice. Self-love, healing, relationships, and purpose. You're not falling behind. You're not lost. The process you're going through is sacred. You're being molded into someone who can bear the burden of what is ahead, even through the messy parts, waiting, and self-doubt. Someone who, when the blessing comes, won't break. Someone who thrives instead of merely surviving. Additionally, you don't get there by rushing through your narrative. Living it is how you get there. Don't allow other people's noise persuade you that your pace is incorrect by breathing through each chapter and respecting each season. Don't let the pressure to keep up to take away your tranquility. You are on your own adventure. It will have a different appearance. It will have a distinct feel. Furthermore, such distinction is not a weakness. It's a pattern. You start to unwind when you finally understand that there is no race, no rivalry, and no time limit on your value. You start to have faith. You start to see that what you used to refer to as delay was, in fact, divine timing. What you used to refer to as stuck was actually purposeful stillness. And what you used to refer to as failure turned out to be a better outcome than you had anticipated. The fact that you are the seer is true. You don't need to rush this. Pushing is not necessary. Nothing needs to be proven by you. Time is not running out for you. You're not falling behind. You are just where you need to be in order to acquire the necessary knowledge. You are precisely who you need to be in order to fulfill your destiny. And that's sufficient on its own. And not because you're attempting to keep up, but rather because you've finally realized that your moment is approaching. And when it comes, you'll meet it as someone who lived life fully, deeply, and in accordance with the divine timing that was always yours, rather than rushing through it.